Well, welcome to Zagging 101. While others zig, we zag. In case you don't know what the zag means, it means that there's a lot of people in marketing that are zigging one way like this, and we come across right off them, and we zag. In other words, we're changing direction. And the reason why we want to change direction is so that we can grab attention, and certainly as we grab attention, add value to the people that are following us. So that's kind of our mantra on this show. This is our third episode for the new fall series. And today we're going to talk about a topic near and dear to me. I get to geek out, and that's going to be 3 tips on how to use your social media data analytics. If you're new to the show and you want to know what our mission is, it's really simple. We exist to help professionals, whether you're into health, physical education, or even the fitness space, develop your influence, your impact, and your advocacy using social media. That's why we exist. We're existing so that we can help make you better at your social media. My name is Guy Danhoff, and you guys can see there that I actually manage social media for MOSHAPE, for Missouri Healthy Schools, through an 1801 grant due to COVID. And even I serve Shape America as a strategist, and my specialty with them has been live video. I'm also an author for the textbook called Health Fitness Management, in which I was one of the first people to ever publish in the area of digital marketing within our field. And I am an assistant professor at Missouri Baptist University. And as you can imagine, I teach classes like social media, like communications, and certainly marketing. And with that, I'd like to introduce our co-host, Lauren Krebs.
Hello, everyone. I obviously am the co-host of Zagging 101. So I got tied in with all this being the digital media consultant of Missouri Coordinated Health Coalition. So I am a freshman counselor at Missouri Baptist University, and I also love fitness and health and all that different things. I went into exercise science, so I have a little bit of background, and I'm a soccer and softball coach. I'm also a proud dog mom to that cute little dog. She's a Great Pyrenees Lab Mix, and her name is Nala. And I am coffee obsessed. So if you ever want to grab coffee, I'm your girl. All right, let's get this party started. So pop quiz. All right, the first person to put in the chat will win a gift card. So think of last week. If you try reaching blank, you end up reaching blank. So put your answer in the chat box, and the first one, Anna will kind of.
Oh, I can't answer it, can I?
You cannot, sorry. You are the official monitoring of the chat.
Michelle Huff finished it.
Okay, what do we have?
Oh,
wait, no, hold on. Dennis, our president.
Yeah, and Dennis.
Our president beat us to the punchline.
Did he get it right?
Yes, he got it right.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. You know, Lauren talked about her obsession with coffee. Dennis, you get a $10 gift card to Starbucks.
I say send it to Michelle.
Oh,
it says noon. It doesn't say no one. It says noon.
I'm gonna count. I'm gonna say it's acceptable. I mean, I think that was possibly a typo. The content of it.
Dennis, he's doing amazing with his social media and technology. So Dennis, you gotta keep that. Thank you though.
Well, we'll let him figure that out later, but nice job, Dennis and Jersey. All right, guys, this is really important, especially again, this quote by Mark Schaefer. He wrote the book, The Marketing Rebellion. It's a book that's had a profound impact on the way that I manage marketing. And I love this quote: no data point is an island. Yes, there is a story behind every data point. And that's why managing and reviewing our social media data analytics is so important, because there is a story behind every data point.
So we are going to start off with our 3 tips on how to read social media data analytics. So the first point we're going to kind of go into is which metrics matter to you. A good way to kind of understand this is, like, if you are trying to promote, let's say, brand awareness, like that is your goal, that is your target. Then you'll be looking at the different ones like shares, comments, retweets, different things like that. The ones I'm really going to focus on in today are impressions, which, just to give a brief definition of impressions. So if you're thinking like you're scrolling through social media and a post pops up onto your screen, that's considered an impression. So every single time your post pops up on someone else's screen and they view it, that's considered like an impression. And then if within that, if they engage, which engaging is either sharing, retweeting, commenting, liking, then that's in an engagement. So with that, the engagement rate percentage is something super important. And Guy's gonna kind of tap into this a little bit later, but that is your engagement rate divided by your impressions. And that gives you a really good idea how well your posts are doing. And we're gonna end with Guy kind of going into the CTA and conversions. Guy, you wanna take that part?
Yeah, the CTA is pretty important. And this is something that, again, I spent a lot of time of researching this, especially strategically implementing it. And we have what's called a CTA, that's otherwise known as call to action. And what we're looking for is your conversion rate. So I'll give you a simple example. Let's say, let's just use Gary Lemke out of Indiana. So let's say, Gary wants to promote, that convention that he had, back in July, and he wanted to he wanted to sell some merchandise, right? So he could have a call to action for, say, those shirts for that convention. But then what you want to do is you want to set it up to where you'll have your link that gets you to the landing page, but then there's one more link you have to click, and that's called the conversion. In other words, when they go to that site, did they actually buy? So what you want to look at is the ratio between the actual purchase versus someone just landing on your page. That's what's known as a conversion, and the conversions is used very heavily actually in social media. And our special guest, when we bring her on, she might even speak to that, because that's kind of a little bit what her business is, when you talk about what Stephanie Lauren does, with Ply Yoga. So this CTA in the conversions is kind of a big deal, but it's something that we do measure, and especially good especially for selling goods and services. And with the rest of that, guys, I think most everything else on that, what you have to answer first is what metrics matter to you. And in some cases, if you're just starting out, you want to start with the simple ones like impressions and engagement rate, because that's going to give a good foundation of really the kind of impact you're having. The CTAs and conversions a little more advanced. URL click should be done standard. So with that, let's go into number 2. Okay, so what you guys are seeing here, our second tip is how do you actually read the report? Now, this is a simple one. And I love the fact that ever since Brett Fuller was a guest on the MOSHAPE Minute, we were talking about the analytics and how you can use Bitly. And he's been using Bitly on his videos. As you see here, this is actually the Bitly printouts that we use for real-time tracking of our URL links. So I want to say that again. The tool Bitly is used for tracking a URL link. So if you're directing someone to, say, YouTube, you can put a Bitly link on it, and then you can track its performance. If you look at the middle of the screen, I don't know if I have a pointer. I guess I do. You can see last week's show. By using the Bitly link, we saw that we had over 1,800 replay views. That is a record in MOSHAPE history. It's the most viewed content of 2020. Only one other piece of content we've ever put out in our history exceeded more, and that was in November of 2018 when I interviewed Stephanie Morris, obviously Shape America's CEO. So this is one easy tool to use, Bitly. It's real simple, it's straightforward, and you can even have your top 10 to look at, and they showed it within a time frame of 30 days. All right, next tool. Okay, this is like a 90-day summary report. I actually just had to give this just a few days ago. And you can see here that this is kind of like, again, if you're just starting out, I'm keeping it simple. If you're just starting out with your analytics, you can look at the number of tweets you have and put that number in here. There's your tweet impressions. Profile views is kind of important because what you want to see is how many people are checking out your profile, meaning that they might see that you have value. That's where you'll probably have a good chance of people then wanting to start to follow you. Mentions, I can tell you this, that when we looked at the data recently, and Tom Lowry knows this, and Dennis knows this, we were shocked by how high our mentions have gone. What that means is that people are mentioning us by our Twitter handle in their tweets. So that's pretty cool. On mentions, And then last but not least, if you want to see the growth of followers, you can see that now. I didn't put our actual data in here, but I do want to point out two interesting things that happen in our data. Here's where I also put July, because we started our summer schedule of June, July, August. Our July number, guys, we had double the amount of tweets, but in August, we had half as many tweets, but we had more Twitter impressions, meaning that less is more. So if you're starting to build your audience and you're building the quality, you don't have to tweet as much. Believe it or not, we actually did that in 2019 at Shape Tampa. I can share that information because I'm not giving you what the values are, but we actually did something like 18% less tweets, but we gained more impressions. So in other words, we were very careful and strategic about what tweets we made and not just, keep blasting things just to blast it. So that was interesting. Then also here at the very bottom, you can see our MOSHAPE minute. I just love giving people like what was the highest point we hit. And, that's great to know in terms of your reach. Then also for the Zagging 101, we had a chance to go ahead and see that. Hey, Anna, could you read that for me? Because I can't. What did Brett just say? Unmute yourself, please.
I had a train. Okay, it says my video that I did to introduce myself back in April, I had 73 total views. Then after using the tips from Zagging 101, my first video after using those tips has me at 330 clicks. Wow, that's
yes.
Amazing. The week later, when I talked about advocacy, it is at 515 clicks. All of this information is from Bitly. It has dropped off in the two since then, though, not certain why. That is amazing.
It is.
Awesome.
Again, Brett, you can unmute yourself right now. I don't mind. Anything else you want to share? Because that's huge. Because you're kind of new to the game with that.
Well, and again, it was fantastic. The tips were great. And the fact that Bitly is so easy to use to get that information, I just love it. I really am a little stumped though, because my last two postings, now the one was only this week on Tuesday, is at 44, but the one before that was 48. So I'm not certain what I did wrong or what was catching other people's eyes at this week, but we got to relook at those things. But again, the information is fantastic and very helpful.
Thank you, Brett. And thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that. All right, we have one more we're going to show you. This is kind of cool. So anyways, that was a general overview. Now, this is actually, if you go to and you click analytics within Twitter, this is the first report you get. This will show you your impressions over 28-day period. And you can see that number is nearly 118,000, or excuse me, 118, 100, I can't even say it. Almost 120,000 impressions. I don't know why that was so hard. Over 28 days. But if you look at the blue, you can see what I love about this, and I know that this is something that Tom Lowry and I have talked about, is you see a consistency that there's a very, for the most part, a very even keel about our numbers and our impressions because we're consistent with our posting. And then if you look at the grayed area, you can then see on how many tweets that took to get to that number. So in other words, sometimes less is more. Sometimes when you do the repurposing, all you have to do is just hit a retweet on the repurpose, and the next thing you know, yeah, and Dennis, you hit the nail on the head. Yes, it does look like daily advocacy because that's been a huge part of your presidency. As that's why we've aligned this strategy. Again, getting back to our strategy, why we're even using social media is for this purpose, and the data plays that out. So it doesn't really matter what your overall impressions are. You just want to see how things are trending. So as far as we're concerned, we love the fact that we're doing this, daily. All right, let's go with the last one. All right, this is a hidden one. A lot of you guys probably don't even know this one exists, but believe it or not, yes, in Twitter, if you go to the other tab when you're in analytics, they'll give you a drop down on video. That's what this report is. Now, hang on, I'm so excited about this one. This one's cool. All right, because we've been camping on this. Okay, what I want you guys to see, obviously in 28 days, over 4,200 views. And that's just strict video content under 2 minutes and 20 seconds, okay? These are short video formats. The bit.ly would then give us the YouTube ones, right? Because they're longer than 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Now, here's what I want to point out to you. We happen to maybe know a show that maybe goes on Wednesdays, okay? Now, remember when I keep saying about why you need to repurpose? You know, we've been saying that for basically since week 1, right? This is our 7th episode. Now, check this out. This is the Wednesday. What do you guys see the relationship on Thursday? It increased. Huh. Let's go to the Wednesday of when the show launches. Let's repurpose here. Let's repurpose here. And let's repurpose here. And you can see, yes, this is pretty equal here. But because we repurposed the second day and then the third day, you can see how we generated that 2x or that 3x. That's why the repurposing is so important. That's why I'm showing the slide to say, guys, if you want to start getting more mileage, you know, out of, in Brett, in your case, even, I don't know if you do this, but like, for example, I don't know what day, you know, you launch, but whatever day it is, let's say it's a Wednesday, you put it out on Wednesday, but then the very next day, then you can take the exact same headline and put it, in case you missed it, the ICYMI, and then you can go ahead and put it fresh in the cycle the next morning. And usually you'll see this relationship where you'll get actually more views the second day. And again, we show it right here again, right? So that's why I want you guys to see why these analytics are so important, because it tells us, and I know Dennis knows this, and I know Tom Lowry knows this in our state, because they hear me talk about it all the time, #repurpose. I've got now verifiable data showing why this is so important. And especially if we have data like this right here, guys, if you add these two together, this is clearly over 1,200 views in just less than 24 hours. That's a huge number of having people see your content. So anyways, there is a video thing. It's not going to work for your YouTube videos. That's where you use Bitly. But if you have videos you put on Twitter, you know, less than say 2 minutes and 20 seconds, this is the kind of report you'll get. So anyways, just wanted you guys to see that. All right, now this is kind of fun. I want to introduce Lauren on this one. One of the things that Lauren and I had a chance to work together on was with the National Hockey League for their Hockey Sled Classic. And we were talking to them about why it's so important to do these reports afterwards so that we can use this data to drive decisions. As I joke around all the time, it's the triple D, #triple-D, data drives decisions. And why this is so important is because this data that we were able to collect over the 4 days of this event, Lauren was able to compile this data and show some trending information, and then she'll highlight just 4 things for you of, again, how you can use the data itself, again, right straight from your analytics to drive decisions. And Lauren, why don't you talk to us more about that?
Of course. So just to be completely transparent, I was not a big data analytics. I didn't really see all of the different uses for it and why it was so important. But I found it to be very important when I was talking to my leadership and explaining like why we need to focus and really dive into social media and how important it would be for our advocacy and our brand awareness. And in all these meetings, I hear no one knows who we are, and no one, we go to different schools and different places and they don't know who we are. And I was like, brand awareness, like we could use social media as that platform. So that is how data drive decision really impacted me. But just so you guys can see, over down here is the report that I made. So in 2018, we had that 59,000, so around 60,000 impressions for the year. In 2019, we had about 64,000. And just from the campaign that I ran with Guy, we went almost to 200,000 impressions with just in that weekend. Not the year, just in that weekend.
4 days, in 4 days. In 4 days, we outproduced 2 years of what they were doing.
So yes, so if you see that there was an increase of 125,000. And this just goes to say how much consistency and strategic planning and looking at the data truly is so important. And I cannot stress that enough. And I was kind of on that other side where I was like, okay, like I see the data, but then I took the data and actually presented them with these tips as well as asking them to make that social media is a position within the organization. And after I left there, they did actually make that a position. which is super cool to show like the data drove them to do that. And I'm just going to touch on a few things. As you see, number one is add a live video every week. And with, as you guys know, we've stressed this enough that live video gets so much more engagement with the authenticity and the transparency. And we got to see that over the course of our campaign. And that is why that was like my number one thing, that we need to add those live videos so people can really understand the organization and who they are and what they want to project. And then, so creating more advocacy posts there, we're going to actually go into that a little bit later. So I'm just going to kind of wait on that. So you guys have to stay tuned for next week. Increase video content to at least 3 days a week. And I think it's really cool. If you guys have been watching Mo Healthy Schools, they really did such a good job on this and seeing their improvements, as you guys seen in the video that Guy just showed, how important video is and how that's where people are intaking information. They don't like reading anymore. They like to watch the video.
Yep.
And lastly, a quarterly analytic check to make sure that we are on the right track, because these 10 tips are probably not going to work now for the organization. Hopefully they've prospered into different things and have different tips and different analytics. So that is something that's super important to keep checking the data analytics after you do make a report. Anything you want to add on this, Guy?
Just the fact that, again, guys, we use this data, Dennis and Tom both know this, that we're always looking at trending information. Are we increasing our engagement? And then, of course, what types of performance do we have? In fact, are we hitting our advocacy goals? If, for example, we have a campaign, Anna knows this, certainly Jersey now knows this, we're paying attention to Health Moves Minds very carefully, so that, again, we're using data to drive those decisions to look at the effectiveness of what we're trying to do. And that's why we monitor this in pretty real time. I know Anna will hear me talk about that a lot, and Jersey's getting introduced to it now, because you're starting to see that, again, it's not enough just to put out posts. We got to see, and in fact, is our audience actually engaging? And that's why, Brett, I appreciate what you had to say, that maybe you might have the right content. Maybe you released it at just the wrong time, or maybe it was a heavy day for Shape America on what they're posting. We've had that happen before. You never want to post anything on Shape America when they're announcing all those Teachers of the Year. Just don't go there. Just shut your social media off, except retweeting those people that are there, because they're dominating. And then the data proves that out. I mean, I'll pull the analytics, I'll show our team that. So maybe you're on a heavy cycle day, as opposed to, that's why I check with Joey Martelli anytime we have huge information we want to put out, like 2 weeks ago on Friday, when we did our Mo Ready PE teacher reentry resource. I checked with Joey. He said, Joey, what do you got going on Friday? He goes, it's a lighter day. I go, perfect. We're launching, and we're also going to launch a MOSHAPE Minute panel discussion, because I knew we didn't have to compete with Shape America. That's just the honest truth here, and that's why we use the data. All right, guys, here you guys get another chance. The first person to get this gets a $10 gift card. They can get a quadruple latte. I don't know if that actually is a thing, with like 6 shots of espresso if you need it. And so here we go. Here's your pop quiz. What is the purpose of Bitly Analytics? I know, Lauren, we've got to rig this thing to get that theme from Jeopardy music going.
I know, like I seriously
really do.
All
right. Okay, I see a response. Did she get it right?
Michelle has real-time tracking URL links.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Jersey, you are the winner.
Jersey!
But Guy, like, you did a little pause there, so I took a picture of it. Is that fair? I was like, this might be the question, so I pictured it.
Oh my gosh, look at you.
Well, listen, I'm like, context clues here.
See,
right.
you're learning. All right, we're gonna have to duke you guys next week, so
I've
that's
been
good
really
to know.
trying to win.
I think that you may have to make your questions harder.
We will. But Michelle, you know what you could do? You could offer that gift card to Dennis now.
Yeah, Dennis, that's a really good idea. Now we can exchange.
All right. Well, you can't say that there aren't winners on this live webinar, because we're always making sure you're getting your caffeine fix. All right, guys, as exciting as it's been, it's going to get more exciting. And I am just so excited to bring on our special guest. And she's obviously no stranger to the nation. especially the MOSHAPE folks, as she was a big part of last year's convention, with the pre-convention as well as during the convention. And we want to welcome Stephanie Lauren. Stephanie is the founder of both Plyoga Fitness as well as the CASE Method. She's an award-winning fitness leader. She does so much continuing education for the largest fitness accreditation organizations in North America. And she's also a former Division I gymnast and track athlete. She's worked very closely with Body Tech gyms in Brazil as a content creator, and she has certainly been leading dozens of best-selling Plyoga workouts throughout, basically throughout the United States. And you can see, if you want to learn more about what she's got going on, just go straight to Plyoga Guru right there on Twitter as well as on Instagram. And Stephanie, how are you doing?
Hello, hello. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for that introduction, Guy, and for having me on here. This is great.
Well, welcome to the ZAG. And with that, we, as you know, we like to ask our guests 3 questions. They're kind of, pretty pointed, but double-barreled. So we'll start with the first one. All right, so I'm going to geek out for just a second, and I'm going to use a little industry terms. So here's the question. So Lauren, what specific metrics or key performance indicators, otherwise known as KPIs in the industry, do you find most helpful with your data analytics, whether it is from your social media, it's your Google Analytics, or it could even be your CRM system, which is your customer relationship management system. So basically, which do you find most helpful?
Well, first off, I'm Stephanie.
Oh, sorry.
That would be really confusing with both your co-host Lauren and me being Lauren.
Yeah, that is pretty funny.
No worries, no worries. I get it all the time, actually. But yeah, I mean, something that's been pretty tremendous for us, especially kind of when COVID hit, has been, both YouTube and Google as far as the analytics goes there. But YouTube has been pretty incredible. Something that we've always done was put up various different fitness tips and lifestyle tips and wellness tips and some full workouts here or there that have been, free resources out there. And when COVID hit, we really wanted to figure out a way to adapt to the situation we were in, right? Not being able to go into schools and be a part of conventions and offer our workshops and sessions, and wanted to figure out a way that we could still offer our tools and our education and our program to teachers, physical education teachers, primarily coaches, fitness pros. And YouTube was such a great way for us to do that. We were really able to tremendously grow our YouTube audience. About 1,600 new subscribers.
Wow.
In the past 6 months.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Stephanie, that's a huge number. That's a huge number. Just to give people an idea, I mean, that's a tremendous, that's why I asked you the question. I mean, I had a chance to look at your YouTube and I honestly was just blown away. And congratulations to you for making that huge pivot based on, again, the analytics that you took the time to analyze.
Thank you.
The next question we're going to fire over so I don't get your names confused. Lauren is going to ask Stephanie the next question.
All right, Stephanie. So how often and how do you use the data to drive decisions?
I mean, we definitely clue into it pretty consistently. I mean, we use a lot of different, social media for sure. Facebook has been pretty awesome for us in driving, those YouTube subscribers, as far as, keying in on that data and turning, viewers and teachers to, becoming subscribers, by using their students, using the workouts virtually, during the times of COVID. What's pretty significant is that 27 to 30% of our open rate, with our emails through our CRM has really been helpful. So we definitely use a little bit of different avenues. We don't do Twitter so much. I know that's huge in the education space, but yeah, our CRM is helpful. A lot of organic growth for sure. I mean, I think that's a huge one with teachers that were you know, somehow introduced from someone or from PE Central or from the MOSHAPE Facebook group that Sandy Moore had awesomely invited, you know, me to be a part of. And so, you know, it was a lot of word of mouth, you know, teachers that were putting our workouts out there. We were trying to give as much free resources and free workouts to these teachers to say, hey, we know that this is a tough time and everyone's scrambling. So, you know, here's a whole playlist. I don't know if you had seen that guy on our YouTube. We have it.
Yeah, no, you really optimize it. Yeah, yeah, it's very organized.
Yeah, and that's not just me. I have a partner in crime that does a lot of this end of the spectrum with our business, and he's, you know, really great at that. But it had reorganized, so we had a whole playlist for all ages. So we knew that we could send that to teachers, to administrators, to say, hey, these are you know, child proof, right? You know, there's no sports bras, there's no cursing, there's no anything like that. And that was pretty amazing, was just teachers sharing with other teachers and then students enjoying the workouts and talking to their friends. So
wow.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's just amazing because our end goal, right? Everybody on here, our end goal is to help kids, you know, lead more active and healthy lifestyles and enjoy it, right? So that they can look at it as something for the long haul. I think every single person on here has that same mission, which is why you're a part of this and many other things. And so that, you know, that was just such a driver for us, is like, you know, just trying to figure out when COVID hit, was like, how can we adapt and you know, overcome and give as much value to the teachers as possible.
Right. You know, Stephanie, with that, you know, I just want to say thank you again, because we got a chance to get to know you last year at our convention when it was face to face, and just the impact that you're having. And you know, on this show or in this webinar, what we try to do is help grow people's influence, impact, and advocacy. And I always love asking this question last, because especially recently with some of the things that you strategically did to make what you do more accessible to the HB community, I just want to say thank you for doing that. And so I'm going to lead in with our last question is, what impact have you been able to make with your data-driven decision-making?
Yeah, that's a great question. Before I answer that specific question, one of the things that Lauren said earlier that I want to drive home even more so is the importance of that consistency, right? It's, you know, you can have all the data coming in and, you know, doing all of that, but if you don't have consistency, it's going to be quite challenging to be able to put that into decision making, right? You said the triple D's.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's huge, is consistency with, you know, continuing to give and continuing to post and live videos, like you said. And I'll kind of go into the impact question right here, and then talk on something that Lauren shared in the previous slide about live videos and all of that. So once a lot of you on here, if not all, know that, you know, what we do with Play Yoga is not just create workouts for students, but we've created an education system for education professionals and fitness professionals and coaches to have the opportunity to become certified, to get the education, the professional development hours, and really get another amazing, valuable tool that requires no equipment, for kids that they can do it anywhere, which in a time like this is so important. It's like Play Yoga was almost made for, you know, a struggling time in kind of which we're in right now, with kind of different school situations right this current moment. So we have our certification that we offered at MOSHAPE last convention, which was very successful, and I had a blast at that convention. I have to give you guys props for that amazing MOSHAPE convention. I made awesome new friends. And it was definitely a very fun convention. But what we did was, when COVID hit, we said, what can we do now with our certification platform? We're not going into schools. We're not going into fitness facilities. How are we going to give this education to the teachers to be able to use it with their students virtually? And fortunately for us, we had already set up the platform to do our certifications live online, which we feel, I know pre-recorded is something that a lot of people are doing. And we're still doing them live online because we feel like there's a really special personal touch when there's still that interaction like we're doing right now. And so we highly discounted our certification dramatically to almost nothing, to say, here, you know, come get this education, come get this tool when you're scrambling, trying to figure out, you know, what you can do from home virtually with your students to keep them active without them having to have anything at their discretion, you know, from equipment to a lot of space. And so we started doing our virtual certifications. April 7th was our first one, and we did one pretty much every 2 weeks. And it was tremendous. It was almost overwhelming the positive response. We had on average like 100 blend of teachers, fitness professionals on each certification from all around the world. It wasn't even just the US. And so, yeah, just in the past, I guess, five months, we've had almost 2,000 people join our education team, and now we're using this resource. So, I mean, the impact that reaches, to me, it's not even the number of the teachers, but it's the number of students and children and people that each teacher in person are now touching with, you know, with this fitness program.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Like you said, I was so blown away by your story, you know, because Stephanie and I talked, and that there's a lot of people that have gone out of business because they didn't have that pivot, or they didn't have the foresight, or even have the technology to be able to pivot online the way you did, doing live with all the education that you've been doing. And I just wanted people to see and hear how you've been able to use your analytics and turn it into obviously doing something very good for our profession. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, you're very welcome.
All right, this was the very first week. We want to give a huge shout out to our new sponsor, Heart Zones. Guys, you're gonna be hearing more from them in weeks to come, but we're just so excited that they'll be sponsoring Zagging 101 for the next, I don't know how long, but for quite some time. They're also gonna be sponsoring the MOSHAPE Minute, and yes, even our upcoming virtual convention in November. So again, a huge shout out to Heart Zones and all that they're doing, and even contributing, certainly helping students all over the country right now. So I wanna say thank you to them.
And I have to give a quick shout out to Sandy Moore, who I don't think is on here right now, but if it wasn't for meeting Sandy outside of the Shape America convention in Tampa, she's like, make sure you share this. She literally walked up the stairs outside. I was taking like a breather because it was a gorgeous day. I was in Tampa, and it was, you know, cold here in New Jersey. And I had never met her before. We connected, and, you know, most of you know Sandy, if not all of you. And she introduced me to so many different people, you know, from almost all of you to bringing me into the convention, making sure that I had a pre-convention spot, really pushing for that. And just, you know, all know how Sandy is. So I'm very grateful. I just wanted to share that. If it wasn't for meeting her and her being so understanding of the value that, you know, what our program provides the industry, I may not be on this Zagging 101. So shout out to Sandy out there.
Well, Sandy, all we can say is that's a big zag move, as we say around here. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Lauren, what do you got for us?
All right, so it's that time again where we love if you could drop in the chat box a key takeaway of today. Again, this just truly shows us like what you guys are learning, what you guys want to learn more about, and we really appreciate it. So if you guys want to take a second while we finish this up to write your key takeaway in the chat box.
Yeah, more data than clicks on the video. Yep. The triple Ds, absolutely. The value, yeah, repurposing. That's great when you have the analytics to show that to you. Repurposing, guys, again, it's not, I'm not just saying it, but you really want to be effective. Repurpose your content through 3 days. You can double it, triple it, or quadruple it. Yeah, that's really good, Anna. The importance of the amount of engagement in the analytics itself. Exactly. So you can see that you're resonating. Yeah, and definitely it's great to have Brett and Terry with us. So with that, while you guys are still, chatting away, I kind of want to, wrap up this recorded session. And we want to thank you guys for tuning in to Zagging 101. We'll get into a live Q&A in just a second. If you guys want to contact us, you can see all those Twitter handles there. Follow us on Twitter. I can promise you we'll make sure that we add value each and every post. And next week, we're going to be talking about one of the, probably in this field, perhaps might be the most important or certainly highly valued. We're going to teach people how to promote advocacy using social media tools. In other words, there's been some recent data and some trends that we want to share with you guys. So when we're looking for our special guests, we ask the question, who might know a little bit about advocacy? And then, of course, we ask the bigger question, like, who knows a lot about advocacy? And then we finally come to the conclusion, well, we couldn't think of anyone better than to ask Shape America's very own CEO, Stephanie Morris. And Stephanie Morris is going to be on the Zag next week live. So you definitely want to tune in next week as we have Stephanie Morris with us next week. So, all right, we got one more slide for you. And now what we're going to do is we're going to break into a Q&A, obviously, with Stephanie Lauren, not to be confused with Lauren Krebs. But I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now. And then, Lauren, go ahead and then open up the screens for us. All right, we're stopped recording.